Well, hello again. Welcome to another screencast of modifications to games. In this case, we're going to talk about a Pong that was part of the assignment for CS50's Introduction to Game Development at HarvardX with edX. In this case, we are going to try to give one of the paddles or the two paddles of the game Pong an IA. So in this case, this is our start menu. It has been added as part of the code. And in this case, you can choose to play player versus player using the arrows as normal game, player versus machine, or machine versus machine. So let's use T to go into player versus machine. Okay, so in this case, we're going to use our right paddle as our user version, and the machine is going to control our left paddle. So if we hit on enter, we see how the left paddle is adjusting right now with the ball and how it responds to the ball movement. As the game is developing, we will see how it becomes harder to work on it because the speed of the ball is increasing, but it is at those speeds that our paddle with IA will start making mistakes. So if we hit the key M, we go back to the menu and we select a different one. In this case, we can go for the machine versus machine, and that is completely automated except for serving. So at this point right now, both paddles are being controlled by the machine. If we let this roll, we'll see how eventually we're going to have some score. We're not going to go through all of this. We're just going to go back into seeing our code, and I'm going to get back into the menu so we don't have to hear the noise of the paddles hitting. This is our main code. A couple of modifications that were done here in our lob.load. We have the game set. We added to game set the option for menu, that first screen that you see there, and the game mode, that is to select player versus player, player versus machine, or machine versus machine. Obviously, the first thing is understanding that is a simple game state menu, and then we print in the screen the options and using this is the section that we're talking about right now, and using the key press, we are going to go to select if our game state is menu to go into one of the game modes. Basically, it's going to work the same as before with the game state and start, but game mode, second variable now is going to be the one defining it. And this second variable is going to be used in our lob.update. So we started with the normal code. Remember that game set was in serve or play, but then we added here our game mode, player versus player. This was the original code where the two paddles are controlled by the user with the keyboard. Then we have also this code. Okay, this is basically one of the biggest modifications in our code. So if we go into game mode player versus machine, then we're going to invoke this function paddle IA with the paddle that we want to control. This gives us the option to escalate this eventually if we want to select right or left paddle and a delta T. The same thing for paddle 2, in this case player 2, it's the same with the control from the keyboard. In the game mode machine versus machine, we give control of the paddles to the IA. And then let's see what this function does. The function paddle versus paddle IA receives the paddle that we are going to be controlling here and a delta T. This delta T is so we can update that paddle at the end. Basically, what this function does is to cases basically. Well, three cases. The first case is if our paddle is below the ball and the ball is moving upwards, that means that the ball is going to be going away from our paddle. In that case, we need to match the speed of the paddle with the speed of the ball minus a certain random number. In this case, we have set to 5. This value could be modified. We can call it as a handicap. And this handicap can be changed based on levels of difficulty if we decided to add it eventually. That way, the paddle will try to catch the ball at some point. The same for here. We have this comparison. If the paddle is above the ball, okay, now this player X position plus the height minus this section is going to give us a margin of error. It's going to go in the last third of the paddle. So if the ball is below the lower third of the paddle, then the speed of the paddle and the ball is going down, then we're going to be heading also away from the paddle. Remember, that means that the ball is below the paddle, and if the ball is moving in the positive direction with a speed in the delta y of positive, that means it's going down, it's going further away from the paddle. So that way it just moves with it. And then it's the same idea. We're going to try to catch it up. Remember that this random here to 5 is when it's going to allow our paddle to at some point not be able to catch it. So it actually makes it playable. And in case the paddle is at the same level as the ball, well, we don't do anything. And then we just update it. That's basically our code. And that is our Pong with IA.